Good morning, guys. I hope you guys are well. You have to understand that people are not stupid and people understand the power of words. Okay, people understand the power of words. There's a saying that says sticks and stones may break my bones, but words would never hurt me. And that is a saying, but that is actually a lie, because words have power. Okay, and you have to understand that there's people that understand the power of words, and there's people that the enemy will send your way in order to mold or to implement specific words within you so you can believe it. No different from when you are a child growing up and you may have grown up in an environment where you may have been called names by your family members, you may have been called names by your brothers and sisters, you may have been called names by your parents, and because of this, growing up, you may have started to really believe that you are these names. Why is that? Because you've heard it so much from people in the household, you started to believe it, right? And it's the same situation when you're being bullied in school. When people start calling you names and, a group of people are doing it, you may start to believe it, because not only is because it's a group of people, but because it's repetitive, right? It's the same concept with, today, you guys being adults. You have to understand that the enemy understands that a consistency of negativity being said to you from the same people or from different people, groups of people, it can have some sort of effect on you. So anything that is outside of God's will for your life, anything that anyone tells you that is the opposite of what God tells you, you have to ignore it. And you have to understand that the whole reasoning that people do this and the enemy will use people to do this is because they're trying to program this within you. If you hear something over and over and over again, even if it's not true, you may actually start to believe it. If somebody says, hey, the sky is green, and they tell you the sky is green over and over and over again, and you're hearing that the sky is green for about 6 months straight from the same person or from different people or people that they group up with, you may actually start to believe it, right? Even though the sky is not green. The sky is blue, gray, white, sometimes pink, sometimes orange, sometimes reddish. You may know that the sky is not green, but they will try to convince you that it's green. This is a form of programming. This is a form of programming, and the enemy does this to deter you. The enemy does this because the enemy wants you to start to believe what is being said about you. Okay, so this is why it's so important to ignore and to block out all outside noise, because the human brain is like a sponge. The more you hear something over and over and over again, you'll start to remember it, and you'll actually start to store it in your brain, right? So this is why you have to be careful what you watch. You have to be careful what you listen to, and even the people that are around you and what they're trying to tell you. You have to understand that there's some people who understand the power of words, and they will try to discourage you and put discouragement within you so you can go up against God, so you can go up against your purpose, your plans, everything, right? You have to understand that nobody knows you better than God knows you. Nobody knows you better than God knows you. And nobody knows what conversations that you and God have behind closed doors, because your relationship with God is your personal relationship. So behind closed doors, if he is telling you to do certain things, that is between you and God. God is not going to tell somebody outside of your relationship the plans he has for your life, right? Detail for detail for detail for detail, and not tell you. You are going to know before anybody else. And even if you may not know, even if you may know a little bit and somebody comes to you and prophesies to you and says something to you, it's going to confirm what God already told you. And you may know additional details more than that person because you're already hearing it from God, right? So you have to be careful of people trying to come in and trying to program you into going into a whole different direction and trying to program you out of your calling, out of your purpose, because a lot of these people that try to do that, they know the power of words, and what they're trying to do is to gaslight you into believing something that is not even true in order for you to come down from your position that God has placed you in, okay? And this is a manipulative tactic, and this is a form of gaslighting. And like I said, this is a pattern that's been done for years to many of you guys. Teachers may have done it, students may have done it. And if you are a very sensitive person where you are always trying to reanalyze your actions and you're always trying to make sure that you're doing the right thing, right? People notice about you because people know good hearts when they see one. People know good people when they see one. People can tell if you're the kind of person that overthinks, if you're the kind of person that overanalyzes. They know this about you. They can tell. And that's why they will use this tactic, and they will try to manipulate you, because they understand that you're that kind of person, and they know that once they say that word one time, you will think of it 3 times, even though they said it 1 time. If they say it 2 times, they're going to think about it 6 times. If they say it 8 times, you may think about it 20 times. You get what I'm saying? Because they know that's the kind of person you are. So they will use this tactic to try to program you into believing something that's not true, to make you start being confused, to make you start questioning yourself, to make you start questioning God. And people like this are the author of confusion. Okay? They are the author of confusion. God is not a man that he shall lie. When God tells you something, it stands. If he gives you something, gives you instructions and tells you this is for you, it stands. Do not listen to anybody outside of God. People are purposely put here from the enemy, and people are purposely allowing themselves to be used by the enemy. Anything could trigger a person into doing this. It could be envy, it could be jealousy, competitivism, comparison. People will literally allow the enemy to use them this way based on how they're feeling about you, based on, the imperfections within them that they don't want to face, based on the projection and how they truly feel about themselves, based on them comparing themselves to you, wanting to compete with you. People will allow the enemy to use them in any sort of way in order to make themselves feel like they're above you and they're better than you. And that's why they will allow the enemy to use them in this way and try to cause confusion in your life. Anything that anybody says outside of God's will for your life, and you know God. If you know his voice, you know his voice. Okay? If you know his voice, you know his voice. So you know God. And anyone that tries to manipulate you out of God's will for your life is an author of confusion. You have to understand that. Don't let people come in and gaslight you and trick you out of your position. Okay? I love you guys. I'll talk